Let's consider this inequality. We're trying to solve x squared plus x minus 12 is less than 0. So in order to do that, what we want to do first is factor this. And so we'll use the guess and check method. So what I'm going to do is put down two sets of parentheses like this. And in this slot, it's x times x. X times x is x squared. Now I need to figure out what multiplies to be negative 12 and adds to be 1. Let's see, I guess that would be positive 4 and negative 3. So x minus 3 times x plus 4. Notice that negative 3 times 4 is negative 12, and it does add to be 1, so that's going to work out. So when we find the critical points here, we see that this one's going to give 3, and this one's going to give negative 4 as critical values. So thinking of this as if it were equal to 0, we would get these critical values. So 3 is what makes that one 0, negative 4 is what makes that one 0. So we'll put those on a number line here. And then we're going to check these intervals. So we're checking the interval from negative infinity to negative 4. That's this region. And then we're also going to check this region here in the middle, and then this one over here. So we're checking those regions, and it's test points. So if I look in this region, maybe I would use, as a test point, I would use negative 5. And in between here, perhaps I would use 0. And then in between here, perhaps I would use 4. So those are going to be my tests. Now that I have those test points, what I want to do is find out if those are going to yield negative or positive results. And the reason I'm going to do that is because we're looking for something when multiplied will be less than 0. In other words, it'll be negative. So we want to find out which one of these gives negative answers to this. So in this region, I'm using negative 5, and I'm going to put it right here. So negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8, and negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Negative 8 times negative 1 is a positive. So that yields a positive answer. You see how I did that? So I took negative 5 and I put it right here. Negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8. And I'm holding that in my brain. You might want to write it down if you have trouble doing that. And then I'm going to put negative 5 right there. Well, negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1. Well, negative 8 times negative 1 is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. So the answer to this problem is not going to be in that region, because that yields positive answers. And what we're looking for is negative answers, things that are less than 0. So let's put the 0 in, see what happens. If I put 0 in, 0 minus 3 is negative 3. 0 plus 4 is 4. A negative times a positive is a negative. So those will definitely be negative answers in that region. And then let's put the 4 in. So if you put 4 in here, 4 minus 3 is 1. 4 plus 4 is 8. 1 times 8 is positive 8. So this would yield positive answers. So that's the reason I'm going to say that the solutions to this are all in this region, because those yield negative answers and they'll be less than 0. So the solution here is from negative 4 to 3. And that's what this means. This is not an ordered pair. This is saying from negative 4 to 3. And the fact that I have parentheses means that negative 4 does not and 3 does not yield a correct answer to this, but it's everything in between there. If I wanted the endpoints to be included, I would have had to use brackets instead of parentheses, but these are parentheses to say that the endpoints are not included. So the endpoints would in fact give you 0. It wouldn't be less than 0. So this is one way to solve this type of problem. The other thing that you could do is you could type this into a graphing calculator, and perhaps that I'll try that in another video. But you could type this into a graphing calculator and graph it and see which x values are below 0. In other words, below the x-axis. And what you would find out is from -4 to 3, the graph is below the x-axis. Let me get my graphing calculator real quick. I guess we'll do that right now. We won't do a separate video. We'll just do it. Let me type this in. So I'm going to type in that equation, x squared. So here I am. I'm typing. I hit y equals, and I'm going to hit x raised to the second power, and then it's plus x, so plus x, and then minus 12. So I typed that in. All right, I typed that in. I hit the zoom. This is zoom. I hit zoom 6. Zoom 6 because that'll graph it on the normal view screen. Now I want you to focus in here. Look at this. So if you count over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 to the left and 3 to the right, and the graph is below the x-axis in that range, and it's above the x-axis up there on the outside. So that is what's going on here when we say that the answer is from -4 to 3, because on the graph, it's below the x-axis. It's below the x-axis from -4 to 3. So this is an alternative way of doing this kind of problem. So this is a graphing method where you're looking at the x values for which the graph is below 0 because it's less than 0. And then this is a way to do it without graphing, just to do it algebraically.